maybe an older person gets sick or has a fall or something like that, I've heard people say, oh, well, once you stop moving, it's over. For some reason, it's so hard to just come in here and get in this room because I know all the work that is,
Yeah.
but if I can tell myself, hey, I don't have to work 6 hours today. If I can just work on it for 15 minutes, I'll feel like I've accomplished something.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and connect. Today, we're joined by Paul Skidmore, a talented author and filmmaker from Tennessee, with a passion for storytelling that bridges the gap between hope and human connection. Paul's work, including his upcoming film adaptation of The Darkness Road Over Her, aims to spark meaningful conversations about mental health and friendship. Tell me your name and what you do.
My name is Paul Skidmore, and I'm an author and filmmaker in Tennessee in the United States.
Okay. What's your favorite quote?
Right now, I have two. It's keep moving, and you only keep what you give away.
Ooh, keep moving. And I feel why do I feel like they're the same quotes combined as a first sentence, second sentence, even though you said I have two. Keep moving, and you only keep what you give away. Okay, let's address the first part. What is?
Sure. So both of these ideas come from my short story, The Darkness Rolled Over Her. It's a short story I wrote back in 2019. Originally, I just started writing it for fun, and then it became about a very serious topic once the story started developing. And when I began writing, it was really just about fly fishing. And my dad would take me fly fishing, and one of the ways it was different from the other kinds of fishing that we would do is that you would be out in the water and you would be constantly walking upstream. So you wouldn't just stay in one place and wait for fish to come by, but instead you would walk upstream looking for the fish. And if you were at a little fishing hole and there weren't any fish there after about 30 seconds or a minute, then Dad would keep moving. He would just keep walking upstream. And so we would walk maybe 2 or 3 miles through ice cold water coming down strong at us, coming downhill in the East Tennessee mountains. And I was just struck with this idea that we were just constantly moving. And so as I was writing the story about fly fishing, I decided to have a main character who had decided to stop moving. And that made me think about what people sometimes say when maybe an older person gets sick or has a fall or something like that. I've heard people say, oh, well, once you stop moving, it's over, And so I thought, here's somebody that has kind of decided to stop moving. And eventually that became somebody who, she's decided to take her own life. You find out in the first pages of the story. And so this experience that she has with this old fisherman as they walk upstream together, it sort of keeps hammering home that mantra of keep moving, keep moving. Every time they leave a hole, the old fisherman says, all right, keep moving. And later, as they begin to open up and share about their past and their lives and their hardships, that obviously becomes about more than just fishing, but it's about all of the hard, difficult stuff that sort of comes downstream at us as we're trying to wade upstream through these ice cold times in our life. If you just lay down in the water, you'll drown. But if you keep standing up and you keep moving, the water's going to keep coming, but you'll keep making progress as long as you keep moving.
Yeah. The thing about keep moving, right, is that you could look at like literally, or you could also look at it metaphorically, like, okay, most of the times, right, just this is my own personal observation, when I feel like I'm stuck, right, I feel like, oh, there are no ideas, nothing's happening, I realize that if I just stand up, start pacing myself in the room while I'm brainstorming, I notice that for some reason, like they just start flowing, and I'm like, wow, everything is good. Well. Or when I take a walk, or anything, like as long as I'm not like lying on the bed, covered with the blankets, and I'm like, ooh, then I'm like, I'm stuck physically and I'm stuck mentally, so everything is just double stuck. So as much as possible, I try to like move physically, and then certain things starts working for the mental.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we think of our mind as separate from our body. We think of them as sort of like two different things, but like your brain is part of your body. Your brain is directly connected to your skin and your muscles. And so when you get up and just change rooms, even in your house, your brain goes through a shift and a change, adapting to the new stimuli in the room. When you go outside and you get sunlight and you get fresh air and you go for a walk, all of these things can be very stimulating to the brain just because there's some new stimuli coming in. In fact, that's sort of the basis of the story in the book. So Gwen, she goes on this fly fishing retreat, and it's a program that is for veterans with PTSD. And fly fishing has been shown to be really good for people that have PTSD, because when you have post-traumatic stress, essentially what happens is your brain keeps reliving the trauma over and over and over again. And so it's like you're stuck, just like you were saying. It's like you're stuck, and the water is just continually rolling over you. And so your body, when you're in a traumatic situation, it produces a lot of cortisol and adrenaline, this kind of fight or flight response, so that you can get out of that situation.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a situation like that, those things are very helpful. But when you're not in a situation like that, and you still have these elevated cortisol and adrenaline levels, it's actually very harmful for your body. It's good in little short bursts when you need it, but it's not good to have it ongoing. And when your mind keeps replaying this scenario, the rest of your body only knows what the mind is telling it. And so it thinks that these things are still happening and responds in that way. And so by going fly fishing, you're out in nature, you've got a change of scenery, you're walking, you've got the cold water, you've got the warm sun, you've got the fresh air, you can hear the birds chirping, you've got the white noise of the rushing water, you've got the rhythmic sort of ballet-like motion of casting the rod. And all of these things really contribute to help bringing those cortisol levels down and bringing those adrenaline levels down and focusing the mind on some new thing instead of reliving all the old things, so that some healing can begin. And that's what a lot of these retreats that are like this are for. I've seen similar programs where it's motorcycle rides or horse riding or art therapy. And really the idea is kind of the same: to get to a new environment with a different group of people that are going through some of the same things that you are, and not rehashing all the stuff that is harming you, but instead focusing on something new. And it's that keep moving idea. Let's not stay in this place that is harmful for us, but let's keep moving into some new space where we can begin to heal.
Yeah. I like the story, your own personal story, used to illustrate the idea of keep moving. And that is, sometimes I think what comes to mind is the quote of Martin Luther King, that if you can fly, fly; if you can run, run; if you can walk, walk; if you can crawl, crawl. But whatever you do, keep. Did he say keep moving or keep making progress? But I can't remember the last part, but something about keep moving. And it's the fact that sometimes when we're doing things in life, right, when we're attempting things or working on a business, writing a book, we might not make the kind of progress. Let's say you start writing the book, and the first week you've written chapter 1 to chapter 6, significant progress. Everything is just coming in, and now you're at chapter 6, and for some reason you're struggling to write just 3 lines in a day. Now, at that point in
Sure.
time, usually what people will do is like, oh, Mike, I can't continue to move at this pace. I might as well just, and that is exactly the right attitude to have. You just keep moving. I mean, if it's 3 lines, 4 lines every day, just keep writing it, and then eventually maybe you start writing maybe two pages every day, and But sometimes people, like, instead of getting two instead of getting if I cannot get 10 steps at a time, I might as well just get zero. And that's the mentality that it's not helping anybody, because sometimes one step is significant. But like, no, or even half a step is significant, but no. I mean, if I'm not going to get 10, I'll just not do anything.
Yeah, I think that's why James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, talks about if you are going to set goals, first of all, set goals that create a system for you rather than a destination. So don't set your goal as writing a book, but maybe set your goal as writing every day.
Yeah.
And then make that goal as easy to accomplish as possible. So I'm not going to write 1,500 words every day. Instead, I'm going to write 100 words every day. Something very small, something that I could do in 2 minutes or less. Because for most people, I know, and this is true for me, the days that I don't want to sit down and write, or don't want to sit down and edit the video that I'm working on, or whatever it is, if I can just get into this room with my water and my coffee and get the software loaded, I sit here and work for 6 or 8 hours. But for some reason, it's so hard to just come in here and get in this room, because I know all the work that is,
Yeah.
But if I can tell myself, hey, I don't have to work 6 hours today. If I can just work on it for 15 minutes, I'll feel like I've accomplished something. So I'll come in here to do my 15 minutes of work, and then I'll look up and it's been 4 hours,
Yeah.
So by setting those easily attainable things, you're right. It's that same idea that if I can just keep moving, if I can move just a little bit. And this is true too with decision making. So I had a friend that once told me that, this old adage, God can't steer a car that's not moving. And so sort of her advice was, if you can't decide between these things, then just go to one of them. If they all look sort of equally good, then just go for one of them. And if it falls apart, then that's not the one. Go for the other one. But if it's not moving, it can't be steered one way or the other, and you're not getting any feedback about anything, and so this idea of keep moving just continues to show up in different places in my life, whether it's my personal life or my professional life or whatever. And it leads in really to, like you said, those two things kind of go hand in hand, but it leads into that second idea that you only keep what you give away, because these ideas are specific to this story, in that, again, this story is about a character who's decided to take her own life. It deals with depression and loneliness and some mental health type issues. And one thing that I have found that helps many people, and you see this in a lot of the American recovery programs, sort of the last step of a lot of recovery programs is that you turn around and you sponsor someone else through their recovery. And because if you don't do that final step, you're not going to hold on to your recovery, And this is an old principle of mentorship, of apprenticeship, of education, of discipleship. And it's this idea that if I want to hold on to the things that I cherish, then I need to be giving them away. And I liken it like this. There's the economy of the physical world, and there's the economy of the intangible world. And so the economy of the physical world is, if I have cake and I give you some cake, now I have less cake. All right. If I have money and I give you some money, now I have less money. That's the economy of the tangible world that we're very familiar with. But the economy of the intangible world is quite the opposite. If I have a little bit of love and I show you some love and you appreciate that, now you have love and I have more love than I had to start with. And it's like
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Creating out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. And that's right. If I feel like maybe I need some encouragement, and so I show you some encouragement, now you're encouraged. I'm encouraged because I feel like I got to help you. And now there's like 3 times as much encouragement as there was to begin with. So the economy of the intangible is not if I give away, I have less, but instead, if I give away, I have more. And so that's what this idea is. You only keep what you give away. If you want friends, then you have to be a friend. If you want to be an interesting person, then you need to be interested in other people and be curious about the things in their life. If you want to have encouragement in your life, be an encouraging person and you'll see it come back to you. If you want to have love in your life, show love to other people and you'll be blown away by the types of love and relationships that unlocks for you.
When did you come to this realization that you only keep what you...
Well, the specific phrase comes from a mentor here in town. And I heard him say it once and I thought, okay, that's really good. But when I started working on this story, I realized that was really one of the key principles of this story. That phrase doesn't appear in the book. It does appear in our film. We have a film version of the book that hopefully is coming out later this year. But it's called The Darkness Rolled Over Her. So the short story is available now. The film will be out soon. You can watch the trailer on YouTube.
Okay, there's a trailer live on...
Trailers on YouTube?
Okay, I'll be sure to look for the link. And if I run into any trouble, I'll contact you so I can put it in the show notes so that people can go check.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I sent it to you in the messages
I would gladly appreciate that.
So we specifically mentioned it in the movie because between the writing of the book and the making of the film, I realized this was really a key point that I wanted to make sure that the audience walked away with, because I have found in my life. So I don't know that I would classify myself as what you might call suicidal, but I have woken up, and just thought, man, if today is like yesterday and the day before that and the day before that, I don't think I want to do that anymore. Like you said a minute ago, it's feeling stuck in the same place. And very shortly after that, I had a buddy. He was the guy who fixed my coffee at the local coffee shop, and he was a little younger than me. And he said, "Hey, I need a mentor. Will you be my mentor?" And I was like, "I don't know about mentoring you. My life's kind of a mess, but we can sit and read some wisdom together, And so we sat down and we would read together and share with each other. And just by playing that mentorship role for him, he'll have no idea how much that helped me until he turns around and does that for somebody else. People, your listeners that have children understand this. You think you know what love is, and you have this loving relationship, perhaps with your spouse, but then you have a child, and suddenly it unlocks this new possibility of love that you didn't even know you could have in your life. And for me, it was the same way in mentoring other people and encouraging them. And so that's what I realized was the power of the book, that I can't solve everyone's problems. I can't solve everyone's depression, but if I can give them one thing that'll work for just about everybody that reads the book, if they can find a way to encourage someone else, if they can find a way to show love to someone else, that'll give them some purpose, that'll give them a reason to get up in the morning, and those relationships will start coming back to them when they give it away. I think a lot of times we get in that dark space, we get isolated, we wait for it to come to us. And unfortunately, it just, it might not. That's the sad truth. But the good news is you'll find that love and encouragement better by giving it away rather than waiting for it to arrive. And there's 8 billion people out there that need love and encouragement. So you've got plenty to choose from.
Yeah, I find this principle. I've known this principle in the context of where you're like, oh, if you want to really learn something, teach it. Like if you're struggling with a topic, you feel like you don't really grasp it or really understand, pick the book and start explaining it. And guess what? They'll start to say, well, but you said this, what does that mean? And then you look at the book, oh, well, actually, and we'll realize that at the end of teaching it, you realize that I have a little clue, but now I think I know what I'm doing in this. And they're like, yeah, just because you taught it. And the students that you taught it to, or the your whoever the case might be, they're like, yeah, the guy is really good at the thing. And you just smile and you laugh. You're like, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I have a friend who he does technical stuff kind of like me, and he always has these little high school interns helping him out. And he will always teach them the stuff that he's doing. And he told me specifically, he said, whenever I learn a new thing, I always call Eli in and say, okay, Eli, sit down. I'm going to show you how to do this. And it's not because he thinks Eli will ever do it, but just because he knows if I can teach Eli to do it, I know that I know it.
Yeah.
It's just that sort of final reinforcement learning, for sure.
Yeah. And in the teacher concept, it's easy to really understand and ask. But when it comes to, the physical, the normal economy, it's been ingrained in our mind, our heart every year. And so when you tell me that, young man, if you need more money, you need to give more money. Like you have to help more. Look for people that that's in need and help them. If you're looking for food, help people that are in need with food and all that. And like, nah, that doesn't make sense. Look, I'm struggling to keep up with all this, and you expect me to give out of that? So it doesn't. No. You just think rich. Like now, the math is not matching because everything we've been told doesn't align or agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, the physical world sometimes fools us into thinking that giving away means that we're losing something. And even when we're making a good investment, like you say, even if I'm putting giving some money away to invest it in something, or even if I'm doing some good thing by sharing my food with somebody, the physical world can sometimes kind of lie to us because we respond so quickly to the short term. We only see it leaving our hand. Which again is a beautiful thing about the intangible world, because when I show you encouragement, it's right then. It's happening right now. It's right in this moment that it's happening. Even for me as an author, when you read my book, you might be reading it alone, but it's still a social event because you're reading the things that I wrote to you. And so even though there's this time delay between the time that I wrote it and the time that you read it, when you read it, it's as if I'm speaking it to you right then, and that encouragement and those ideas and those good feelings and those realizations come to you right away. And so I just really love thinking about the economy of the intangible, and it's difficult because we can't see it because it is intangible. So we have to keep reminding each other. We have to keep reminding each other that it's there, that you only keep what you give away, and just keep moving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the idea of mentorship. Sometimes we what am I saying? Sometimes, most of the times, when we were at a new stage of life and all that, there is no playbook, there is no manual, there is no dummy guide, and so we don't even know what we're doing. There's so many millions of choices we could make, and we don't even know which one is the right. And but when you see someone who's like 10 years younger, you've gone through that level, you've gone through that stage, and now you're mentoring them. It gives you this responsibility that brings clarity. I don't know if yeah, you actually explained that it's a kind of responsibility that gives you clarity. And now you're sitting down, you're looking things, and you're like, yeah. It puts it because when he's talking about some of the struggles and the problems he's having, like some choices, and you're like, yeah, I was once there, and at that point in time when I was there, it felt like this big monster, this big dragon I had to. Well, now that I look at it, it wasn't that much of a big deal. Like, I mean, it was just this. So the new dragon that you need to slay now in that stage, when you look at it, you're like, yeah, in a short while, this will become like this. And so you're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not that big a deal. And that's is a perspective and framing that's
Yeah, I mean, when I was spending time with my buddy from the coffee shop, um, it was a really kind of new experience for me, and I was putting to use some new sort of understanding and wisdom I'd been given. And probably a few years earlier, if he came to me and say, "Hey, my life was a mess," I'd sit him down and kind of academically be like, "Well, here's all the reasons your life is a mess, and here's all the things you need to change. And I go change that and come back, tell me how it went." But with this, I just said, "Hey, man, let's just spend some time together." And so we read together and we hung out together, and I had him help me with things that I was doing, sometimes little personal things at my house, and sometimes little, cookout events where a bunch of people were going to come over. And so we just spent a ton of time together. And so then he would come to me and would say, "Well, this happened this week and this was not good," or "I did this and I wish I hadn't done that." And rather than, breaking out the charts and all the reasons, why this went wrong, we would just sit down and we would talk about it. And I would just ask him questions and just say, "Well, how do you feel about that? And what do you think you're going to do next time?" And I really just walked with him through that time, and us walking together, he felt the freedom to be honest about things that were going on in his life, because he knew that I was there for him, that I was on his side, that that I cared that his life improved, that I cared that his life was successful, And since he knew that, then we could go through those times together. And I really tried to create that same kind of relationship between Gwen and Roy, the two main characters in the book. Gwen comes in as a stranger to Roy, but Roy's been around the block. He's an old guy. He's done this before. And his charming personality gets her to kind of open up, and they build a real budding friendship throughout the day, which gives her the opportunity to open up and to tell him the things that she hasn't told maybe anybody ever. But because of things that they've shared together and discussed together, she understands, okay, here's someone I can speak to. Here's someone that I can talk to. And that particularly is important when you're dealing with mental health and depression and harmful thoughts and things of that nature. Because again, like I said before, we get so isolated in a dark space like that. And we think no one knows what I'm going through, or no one else is going through what I'm going through. And so they don't understand. And so to see someone who comes in and says, "Well, here's what I've been through," or "Here's what I'm going through," that immediately relieves a lot of the negativity and the isolation, because it's like, oh, here's someone else here too that's going through this. And so in the book, Roy really uses his personal story, things that are probably painful for him to share and talk about, but he uses that as a way to let Gwen know you can tell me, you can talk to me. And so Roy is demonstrating this principle of you only keep what you give away. He's doing it to benefit Gwen, but next weekend he'll do it to benefit someone else, and next weekend it'll be somebody else, because Roy needs to do that so that he can keep moving, so that he can keep getting, so that he has a reason to come back to the campsite every week and talk to someone new. And really, ultimately, I don't want to spoil the story for anyone, but ultimately, yeah, but there's a younger woman on the trip, and her name is Sam. And Gwen sees Sam. And she thinks, that's where I was at her age. I don't want her to be where I am at my age. What can I do about that? And that right there is the beginning of wanting to give away something in order to keep something for Gwen. And we built all this. In my experience, it comes out of the book also, because a friend of mine had read the book. And she stopped me in the hallway. I say she's a friend. She's somebody I've known my whole life, but she's kind of an acquaintance. Our moms are friends. Yeah. And so she said, I read the story, and she began sharing, kind of some personal things, not like deeply personal stuff, but more than you would just share with an acquaintance in the hallway, And because she felt comfortable doing that because she'd read the book, and she knew that I understood the things that she was talking about because it was in the book. And so because she was sharing, then I felt comfortable sharing about my own personal stuff, And then we both felt comfortable because we had the book as kind of a safety net. If we got into anything that we didn't really get personal about, we could go, well, it's like in the book where this happened, And so I walked away from that conversation just thinking, wow, that was a really powerful conversation that happened very easily, actually. Simply because both of us knew we could talk about it with each other, And I thought, how do I get everyone that's read this book to have that conversation with somebody? Because that I care about that more than them reading the book, So we developed a little mini book club around the short story. You see, it's only 72 pages on the paperback. It's very short. But the little mini book club, we call it 5 Coffees in a Book. I got my coffee mug here. 5 Coffees in a Book. And the idea is that you would just sit across the table with a friend 5 times. That's the 5 cups of coffee. And you guys would read the book and talk about it together. So week 1 is just sort of icebreaker questions and where to get the book. And then between weeks 1 and 2, you read the book. Week 2, you come back and you talk about the story and how the story develops. Weeks 3, 4, and 5, you talk about characters in the book. So week 3, you talk about Roy, and you talk about how he's an encouraging and a mentor, and you talk about people that have been encouraging to you in your life. Week 4, you talk about Gwen, the main character, and you talk about her character arc through the story. And people in the group have an opportunity to share their own story if they want to. Nobody's obligated to share anything. And then week 5, you talk about Sam, and you talk about people that you could encourage. Yeah. And then the exhortation then, of course, is to go out and give away, to go out and encourage someone else. And so that's so important to me that we have made the discussion guide free. We've made the ebook of the short story free. So if you go to 5coffeesinabook.com, you can get the short story for free. You can see the discussion guide there for free. And the discussion guide will also work with the film once it's out. But I would love to give away 100,000 copies of the ebook. We're well shy of that now, but we've given away a lot, and I want to give away a lot more because especially after the last few years, I don't know what it's been like there for you, but here in the U.S. in particular, for the last few years, isolation and depression and things like that have just really, really skyrocketed. And I think the best way to battle that is for us to encourage each other and to keep moving with each other.
Thank you, Paul. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so again, you can go to 5coffeesinabook.com. That's where you can get the book and the 5 Coffees in a Book discussion guide.
Can you spell it out? Is the 5 spelled, or is the 5 a number? So
you can do it either way. I bought both URLs.
Okay, that's smart. That's smart. Yeah.
So 5 FIVE coffees COFFEES and a book ANDABOOK.com. And then my production company is parabolos.com, parabolos.com.
That's the company.
And if you go there,
that's the company producing the movie.
That's my film production company.
Okay.
Yes. And so you can go there and you can see some other short films that I've done. You can find the trailer for The Darkness Rolled Over Her. You will find my other books that I've written. I've got 2 other short stories, Kindling and Ciao Bella, and a novel called God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. And there's also audio podcasts and some audiobooks and some other things there. But all of that is at parabolos.com.
Oh, once again, thank you so much, Paul, for sharing this your favorite quote with me and helping me make sense.
Thank you so much for having me, Wisdom.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.